So I'm just alone on a dirt track in the middle of the jungle, and I hear two shots. The soldiers jump into action. They're off the back of the pickup, and they're running out into the forest, and they're bang, bang, fighting back. And I'm going, okay, I'm feeling a bit vulnerable here. What do I do?
Hey guys, welcome back to When It Hits the Fan, the podcast where we delve into what really happens when things go wrong on the road. Brought to you by Battleface, the tough face of travel insurance. Now, I'm partial to the odd bike ride, but today's guest has spent so long in the saddle, it's practically a second home. Melbourne native Kate Leeming is perhaps best known for completing a 22,000 kilometer cycle ride across Africa from Senegal in the west to Somalia in the east, becoming the first person to do so. Breaking the Cycle, as the 10-month expedition was known, tested her both physically and mentally as she traversed the sometimes punishing terrain of Central Africa in order to raise awareness of development needs across the region. Although particularly challenging, Breaking the Cycle was far from the only world first Kate has racked up. Among her other achievements are becoming the first woman to cycle unsupported across Russia as part of the Trans-Siberian Cycle Expedition and the 25,000 kilometer Great Australian Cycle Expedition, which included the first bicycle crossing of the Canning Stock route by a woman. Kate's got some amazing projects in the works, so we'll include her details in the description if you want to find out more about those. But that's enough from me. Let's hear from the woman herself. Kate, it's so nice to finally speak to you.
Lovely to speak to you too, Jack. And I've been watching some of these other podcasts, so it's great to have a go myself.
Oh, brilliant. And I've just noticed as well, you've got one of your, is this an expedition bike you've got in the background here?
Oh, absolutely. I can't fit them all in my house, actually. So, but that one has a really special story because it's the first bike to ever have cycled in northeast Greenland. It's an all-wheel drive fat bike, basically, the second of its kind. And then the second thing it did was I cycled on it down Australia's Finke River, which is the world's oldest river, or part of it is, in central Australia. So that was no roads we're talking about, just going down like the sand of the river and the animal tracks along the side. So that was an amazing journey. And then it's also the first ever it was the bike I rode for the first ever journey down Namibia's entire coastline. So from the Angolan border, right the way through the Skeleton Coast, all the way down to the South African border. So
which was also a world first, as I understand it. Is that right?
Yes, actually, all three of them are world first. So it's my lucky bike.
Absolutely. But as I understand it, then the incident you're going to tell us about today was part of Breaking the Cycle expedition, which is perhaps the expedition that you're most well known for. Is that right?
I think so, Jack. It's not the longest in distance, but it's certainly the most difficult and complex and the longest in time, I think. So Breaking the Cycle in Africa was from Africa's most westerly tip in Senegal to its most easterly tip in Puntland in Somalia. So it's through 20 different countries. And, it was life-changing. It was the most amazing expedition, just the chance to be able to cross this amazing continent, the most diverse continent on Earth, and to do 22,000 kilometers, 20 different countries, and just, there's so many different people, so many different experiences. I was also exploring the causes and effects of extreme poverty. So I was visiting lots of different projects and getting a really grounded story of the real Africa, and cycling really does that as well. So, that's, I guess, how this story that I'm about to tell you comes into it. So, so the 10th country that I was cycling in was the Republic of Congo. So formerly Congo-Brazzaville for some people. Mm-hmm. And I was traveling, so I'd just come across the border, not the main border, an inland border, and I was visiting a resource company that I had a connection with. And then from then on, they had connections with the government. And because back in 2003, the civil war ended, but there were still like security risks going through there. And there was a lot of negotiations as I went through that part of the Congo to get to Brazzaville, which is the capital I think it's about 600 kilometers or so from the border to get in there. And so firstly, they sent us like a security guard. So he was a military man with a military uniform, sitting in the support vehicle with an AK-47 out the window. And I was just cycling along with that. And then after the 300 kilometers, we got to this city called Tbilisi. And then he's finished his journey. And then we had a plainclothed inspector, and he had like mobile phones and everything, with all, constantly getting in touch with whomever his superiors, updating where we were, and going through a couple more days like that. And this was through mud already, like the main road across the country is still mud. and so I had a very dirty, filthy time on the bike, in fact, dragging the bike through mud. Then that got ramped up again to having to get two more military people in the vehicle. And then we're approaching just outside of Brazzaville, essentially just outside, is the Pool region. And that's the most dodgy region. And it's where the ninja rebels still inhabit. And it's sort of really their remnants of the Civil War. And they're not really that powerful, but they still would accost people, try to get tax, which is, i.e., if I was trying to go through there alone, if I was allowed at all, which is unlikely, they would have been stopping me, asking me for a lot of money. Anyway, the government or the local military man decided that we needed a lot of protection through there. And so the village before Manduli, through this last region we had to go through, he said, okay, just you go ahead and we'll catch you up, leaving the town in the morning. So I go out the town through along this muddy track, and all of a sudden this pickup with, like, I think there were 8 soldiers on the back with rocket launchers and AK-47s. And I'm going, okay, they really do mean business. It was like a 65-kilometer section of the road. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, they were ahead of me, and then it was just me on the bike, and then behind the support vehicle. And there were lots of big mud patches in the road. We were actually passed by a ninja rebel. Well, the inspector knew it was a ninja rebel. I didn't know on the bike it was a ninja rebel in this like Mad Max type of vehicle. And we stopped, and someone had fallen off in the mud. So the ninja rebel and my colleague went out and worked together to pick the guy's motorbike up. And then got back in. But we think that was the time that he might have been able to phone ahead and say, there's a woman coming through on a bicycle. I don't know. We continue on, and as I said, I'm not allowed to stop, but it was exactly my 10,000th kilometer in the whole journey. And it's quite a momentous thing to tick over 10,000 kilometers.
Sure.
I'm supposed to stop, just for taking photographs anywhere, but I just had to pull my little camera out, and I was just about to snap the shot, and suddenly there were 2 shots out of the jungle, just bang, bang, and I just jumped. I blurred my shot. And basically the way it was, there was the soldiers that were maybe a couple of 100 meters in front of me, at least, me, and then the support vehicle, I don't know, they could have been 50, 100 meters behind me. So I'm just alone on a dirt track in the middle of the jungle, and I hear 2 shots. The soldiers jump into action. They're off the back of the pickup, and they're running out into the forest, and they're bang, bang, fighting back. And I'm going, okay, I'm feeling a bit vulnerable here. What do I do? So I could see a little pile of dirt just to the side of the road. And, I sort of sidled across to the pile of dirt thinking that's the only cover I've got. But, it's obviously not going to really do anything. And basically there's a bit of a skirmish, and I'm sitting there just hanging tight. There's just nothing else I can do. But I did actually work out they weren't actually shooting at me. They were shooting at the vehicle. But who knows where this was going to go.
Is that your support vehicle they were shooting at, or the military?
No, the military. They were shooting at the soldiers, because the soldiers, what I believe now is the soldiers had come through and they were protecting me, and therefore they couldn't ask me for money, couldn't ask for their tax, whatever that's going to be. That's probably what it was. But anyway, that you know, they were, if we'd gone through without that for some reason, if we were allowed to, who knows, there might not have been any shooting, but it might have been pretty costly. I just don't know. They could have, you know, could have been kidnapped. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, so just after that, you know, there's after the skirmish, and I thought everything was still going on, and suddenly even the soldiers went back in the vehicle, and he said, and the commander just like waved me through and said, "Come through, you're okay now." I'm like, what? And I'm sort of like pretty shaky here, and just like having to go into that fight or flight situation, or that feeling, and just so I had to go straight past, cycle past the other vehicle, the support vehicle. I think they're probably more scared than me, I'm not sure, but they came past too. And that's how it was for the rest of the journey. Every time we stopped anywhere, they'd go ahead, they'll secure the area. And I tell you, I got to the tarmac in pretty quick time, much faster. And then after that, it was, you know, you know, that was the main bit for the military. Then there was like a Chinese road for about another 60 kilometers. And I got into the edge of Brazzaville, and then it was absolutely surreal. I was accosted by like all this paparazzi and asking me questions. And I actually had a whole, like the government had organized a whole escort all the way through Brazzaville. They stopped the traffic. So I was like the Tour de France. So suddenly from being shot, and I'm still covered in mud, like smiling, and there's people waving, like, and I've just been shot at. And I was just like, what is this, you know? But you know, it was amazing finish. And the strange thing, when I did get to speak to the government minister, he said, "Look, we just wanted to show the whole of Brazzaville what women can do," and I thought that was cool. But I couldn't tell them about the shooting incident because the government wouldn't like that too much.
It wouldn't be great PR at the time, I think.
No, so I hold my tongue, and but I was just like one of the most surreal days I've ever had, I must say. So
how long did it take you to kind of, you know, for your nerves to sort of calm down and just to go, right, okay, let's just get back into the swing of things after that incident?
Well, I think that, you know, when I was after the actual shooting, by the time I was sort of moving on, I was on a, you know, high. Then I was just like, okay, we've just got to get through here, keep steady. But absolutely, my heart was pounding much more. But by the time we got through the barriers at the other end and out to where the tarmac is, to the next town called Kinkala, that was probably, then we said goodbye to the soldiers. Yeah, the nerves were, I was okay. But certainly, as I say, I can tell you my pace, I really upped my pace going through there. It was, yeah, so it was,
you've mentioned then these chaperones. How was this organized? What kind of prep went in to this expedition beforehand? How were you able to get in contact with, you know, people in the various countries that you passed through in order to ensure your safety?
Yes, that's a very good question, because, you know, one of the things that worked really well was that I'd connected with Australian resource companies who had interests in Africa and on my route. And so some of them were small sponsors, but the really key thing for security was that they were already really well engaged with the governments of those regions. They had their Mr. Fix-It people who could, you know, help make getting visas and things securely. We could always get advice about security up ahead and where the dangerous spots were. And then often they'd actually work out, okay, therefore you need the security here. So they'd actually help with the security. So that is exactly what happened in the Republic of Congo. You know, it wasn't a big sponsor, but I had a base in the north when I came through from Gabon, and I stopped there, and they showed us around, and it was amazing getting shown around that region and meeting some of the local people. Even I think I got to meet the brother of one of the leaders of that the civil war. So I actually got to meet these people. Which was interesting, and see the normal people, like everyone else who's just pushes through that, and you know, it was such a rich experience in so many ways. But as far as the security went, that's how that part was organized, is because I'd made connections earlier. And you know, I also got right through Somalia. You can't go into Somalia on a bicycle. That, you know, you cannot. They will not let you in. But because of some connections that I'd made even before I came there, I'm actually connected with the Puntland government, which is like a state of Somalia, where the most easterly tip of Somalia or Africa is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had therefore a network of connections, and I was 100% protected by the government. But still, there was a civil war going on, and I was cycling straight through it, basically, with bulletproof vehicles. So it was kind of like, I think that, by getting out and doing these things and creating this energy and this idea of doing this journey in a continuous line, you pull good people in. People are generally good. It's just sometimes people may not understand, so you just have to have a plan. Same with going right across the Sahel region. I didn't go, I went from Senegal right through Mauritania and Mali, all the way up to Timbuktu, in places like these are red zones. If you look at the insurance maps, that would be red zones. Don't go there. The Australian government, the British government, the US government, you could not get help there. So here I am cycling through. So I've got local connections. I've developed a network, even to go up to Timbuktu. I had Tuareg advisors because it wasn't, we had to camp. We wouldn't camp by the road or anything like that. We'd camp where no one would see us. We'd turn the lights out if a vehicle went through. There's a lot of common sense things, but another place we went through, the northeast of Nigeria, where Boko Haram is, and it just happened to be a time when the leader had been shot, and there was a little window to get through, but we had advice before, and we just, a bit of common sense, when we did have to camp right near the border guards, they were going to, look after us. So I managed to get help where I could. Same in Mauritania, same in quite a few other places in Ethiopia. So we always employed locals and got local advice, which is also really, well, wherever you go in the world, you should always be getting local advice. So you do a lot of research, try to make connections so that going through, you can reduce those risks. And it seemed to work because I managed to cross Africa. So it's 22,040 kilometers. I arrived 4 days ahead of schedule after 10 months through 20 different countries, including stuff like that, but just kept that momentum going and kept steady and found the right solutions. Occasionally adapted, but always it was a continuous line. So, yeah.
Sure. And of course, this incident, as frightening as I'm sure it was at the time, was only a small part of what was an absolutely mammoth 10-month journey of, as you say, 22,040 kilometers. If people want to find out more about this journey or any of the other record-breaking cycle expeditions you've done, where's the best place to do that, Kate?
Well, I'd say that if you would like to read about that story in more detail, because there's actually, that was just a very quick idea. I did write a book called Njinga, and that's available on my website, kateleeming.com. So if you just go to, it's actually, I have two URLs, but just if you type in kateleeming.com, you'll get there. I've written another book. There's a lot of films because I've done a lot of different things. Right now is a very exciting time for me because we're making a first TV series, a global TV series called Diamonds in the Sand, which is about the very first bicycle journey down Namibia's entire coastline, the Skeleton Coast. So from the mouth of the Kidene River on the Angolan border all the way to the mouth of the Orange River, which is on the South African border. So it's just over 1,600 kilometers, which is 1,000 miles. And, it hadn't been done before, and certainly not on a bike and certainly not into the wind. But, there are a different set of issues to deal with as far as security goes there. But it was just, so we're making this film. So we made a film, but now we're making a series that should be out soon. So I'm very excited.
Well, yeah, we will put those details in the description below. So if people do want to check out your website or any of the books that you've written or, upcoming films, then they can do that. And of course, we will be paying close attention for, to future expeditions by yourself, Kate, because we're always interested to hear about them.
Yeah. So next up, Jack, well, I'm doing one across Australia coming up in May. So, being in Australia, we actually can't leave the country right now.
Sure.
So but my country is awesome. I actually have cycled extensively. I did a 25,000 kilometer journey through it, but I'm doing quite a different journey, crossing right through the centre from the most easterly tip, which is Cape Byron, which is very far north of New South Wales, right across to Steep Point, which is at the edge of the most westerly tip of the country, which is in Shark Bay, if you look in Western Australia. So it's kind of it's about 6,000 kilometres, but I'm also going through deserts, the Simpson Desert. There's the track I'm planning to go, it's more than 600 sand dunes. I mean, we're talking, it's quite a thing to put together as well. So there's that. And very much so, I'm still planning to cycle across Antarctica. Which is,
oh, wow. Amazing. Well, I look forward to hearing more about both of those. But until then, Kate, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Jack. It's been a lot of fun.
Brilliant. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Guys, that's all we've got time for this episode. As always, if you want to hear about the latest episodes we've got coming out, then subscribe. We'd love a like or a positive review on wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. But until then, goodbye.